Imagine your phone rings right now. Like you look down, you see the caller ID, and bam, your stomach just immediately drops.
Yeah, that is a very real reaction for a lot of people when it's their parents calling.
Exactly. Because, I mean, we live in this culture right now that just completely champions unadulterated personal freedom.
Oh, absolutely. The ultimate flex today is, being totally self-made, setting these rigid boundaries, and frankly, just cutting ties with anyone who drains your energy.
Right. It's all about blazing your own trail, like not answering to anyone. But then you encounter this ancient wisdom, and it just completely flips that modern script upside down.
It really does. Because this wisdom suggests that our ultimate success in life, like our capacity for wisdom and our deepest spiritual well-being, is fundamentally tied to how we treat the two people who raised us.
Which is a staggering claim when you really think about it.
It's remarkably countercultural. I mean, the premise we're exploring today challenges the absolute core of modern individualism.
And that is exactly our mission for this dip dive. We are unpacking a fascinating thematic study on the Book of Proverbs, but zeroing in specifically on the dynamic between children and parents.
Yeah, and we have a really rich compilation of material here. It blends scriptural analysis with some heavy-hitting historical perspectives and intensely personal anecdotes.
Right. So, to really grasp what's happening in this text, we need to understand the foundational premise the study lays out. It's not just about good manners, is it?
No, not at all. Honoring parents isn't presented in Proverbs as mere societal politeness. It's framed as a literal spiritual necessity.
Wow, okay. A spiritual necessity.
Yeah, like if you look at the structure of the Ten Commandments, for instance, the first four are entirely about loving and relating to God. Right.
Yeah, the divine relationship.
Exactly. And then the very next one, the fifth commandment, which is kind of the bridge to all human relationships, is about honoring your father and mother.
So they are literally placed at the very top of the human hierarchy.
They are. The argument here is that parents are essentially the first authority deputized over a person's life. They're the earthly representatives of authority during our most formative years.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if parents are the very first authority we encounter, they act as like the initial language we learn for interpreting the whole world.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
It's like they're the foundational blueprint,
Yeah.
you know? How you learn to submit to the architecture of that first relationship basically dictates how you're going to navigate every other structure in society.
Oh, totally. Whether that's a boss, the legal system, or even your concept of a higher power.
Right. If you burn the blueprint, you just can't build the house.
That is a phenomenal analogy.
Yeah.
And understanding that blueprint concept really clarifies why this study places such a heavy emphasis on the evolution of obedience.
The evolution of it. Because it changes.
Right, because a blueprint functions differently when you're laying the concrete versus, when you're decorating the living room. The dynamic is meant to change over time.
I'm so glad the material addresses that. Because a really natural and frankly concerning question comes up here. Like, if parents are this deputized first authority, does the text mean you're supposed to blindly follow their rules forever?
Right, like an eternal child.
Exactly. I think about being a financially independent adult. Does this ancient wisdom demand that I still ask my mom for permission on how to live my life?
Thankfully, no. The study makes a very careful, nuanced distinction between obedience and honor. They cite a historical figure, Susanna Wesley, who argued that childhood obedience is a spiritual necessity for the child's soul.
Notice she says for the child's soul,
Yeah.
not just, for the peace and quiet of the household.
That distinction is everything.
Yeah.
For the first few years of life, the structural goal really is total obedience. There's this profound psychological mechanism at play.
Right, because kids are chaotic.
Exactly. The study points out a common irony. Often, for the first 4 years of a child's life, the toddler actually controls the parents.
Oh, 100%. The toddler's the boss.
Right? They throw tantrums to bend reality to their will. But the natural order requires the reverse. The child has to learn that they do not rule the universe.
Right.
Without encountering that early, immovable boundary, they just grow up incapable of understanding how to submit to any higher authority. They never develop the capacity to recognize when they've done something wrong.
Which means they never learn how to repent or self-correct.
Precisely. Because they've never had to submit their will to anything larger than their own desires.
They just think the universe is like a vending machine that responds to their anger.
Which is exactly the danger the text warns about. However, as a person reaches adulthood and gains independence, that expectation undergoes a massive shift.
So obedience evolves into what exactly?
It transitions from total obedience to lifelong respect. You are not obligated to obey everything your parents dictate when you're 40, but the mandate to honor them never expires.
Okay, I want to push back on this a little bit, or at least pressure test it, because reality is messy.
Oh, incredibly messy.
Yes. What happens when your parents are objectively wrong? Like, what if they demand you do something that violates your conscience or compromises your faith?
Yeah.
A lot of people listening have parents who might ask them to, I don't know, engage in unethical business practices
Yeah.
or who just openly mock their life choices. Are we supposed to just smile and offer some hollow form of respect?
It is the most crucial practical question we can ask, and the study addresses it head on. The material makes it clear that you are not obligated to obey anyone ever if their demands violate your conscience or moral framework.
Okay, that is a massive relief to hear.
Yeah, the text even applies this to religious leaders. You wouldn't blindly follow a pastor if they contradict foundational teachings. It is entirely acceptable and sometimes absolutely necessary to say no to your parents.
But there's a catch, isn't there?
There is. Here is the critical caveat that changes the entire dynamic. The way you disagree matters immensely. You must maintain the posture of honor.
So it's about the delivery.
Exactly. The study emphasizes the necessity of being polite, firm, and kind, even when drawing a hard boundary. You look them in the eye and say, I respect you, but I cannot do this.
It's separating the person's position from their current behavior.
Yes. And the author of this study actually shares a very vulnerable admission about failing at this exact thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When he first adopted his faith, his parents had expectations that completely clashed with his new convictions. And he admits that he stumbled badly in how he handled it.
How so?
Well, he realized much later that he was incredibly ungraceful in his disagreements. He possessed the right theology, but his posture was arrogant.
Wow. He used his newfound moral high ground as a weapon against them.
Exactly.
I think we all do that in different ways. We learn something new, we go to therapy, we read a book, and suddenly we feel vastly superior to the people who raised us.
Right. And the realization he had to come to was that even if a parent isn't acting respectably in a given moment, the office of the parent still demands a baseline of dignity.
The office of the parent. I like that.
The study references a concept from the Puritans. A child should be the parent's echo. The idea is that you reflect back honorable conduct, regardless of the noise they might be making.
I love that image, being an echo of honor. But having established what a healthy, bounded respect looks like, we kind of have to look at the dark side now.
We do.
Because Proverbs gets startlingly specific and frankly uncomfortable about what happens when that respect disintegrates. It goes way beyond just like rolling your eyes at a family dinner.
Oh, yeah. The ancient text is relentlessly practical here. We can look at Proverbs 28.24, which issues this severe warning against the person who robs his father or his mother and says, that is no transgression.
And when we hear the word robbing, our minds immediately go to a Hollywood stick-up, right? Like a masked bandit stealing jewelry. But the study points out that robbing parents usually takes incredibly subtle, insidious forms.
Emotional extortion, mostly.
Yeah, manipulation. Like, author shares this modern anecdote that perfectly illustrates this about a young boy who went on a literal school strike.
Oh, that story is rough.
It really is. He flat out refused to attend classes until his mother bought him a brand new iPhone. And to add context, the mother could not afford this phone. It was a massive financial burden.
She was placed in an impossible situation.
Exactly. He emotionally extorted her, leveraging her desire for him to get an education against her wallet. The sister eventually advised the mother to just buy the phone so the boy would go to school.
And she paved, right?
She caved, bought the expensive device, and the boy went to school for exactly 2 days before deciding he felt out of place and dropped out anyway.
It's the definition of foolishness.
Right.
But it perfectly captures how children can hold their parents' peace of mind hostage. Like, give me what I want or I will ruin my own life and make it your fault.
Think about how often people do this, maybe not with an iPhone, but by demanding financial bailouts, expecting parents to fund a lifestyle they haven't earned, and feeling entitled to it because, they owe me.
That sense of entitlement is the core of the proverb. And the author balances that story with the confession of his own literal theft, actually.
Wait, his own theft?
Yeah, he admits to being a, quote, long-time thief in his youth, quietly siphoning thousands of rupees from his parents' home. He would take a large sum and claim he only took a fraction of it.
Wow, that is incredibly honest.
It is. Years later, his conscience actually forced him to go back, confess the exact amounts, and to repent. He points out how effortlessly we justify robbing our parents in our own minds. We tell ourselves, it's just family money, it will be mine eventually anyway, so it's fine.
That is no transgression, just like the verse says. We completely sanitize our own greed.
We do.
And this robbery isn't just financial, right? The material explores how we rob parents of their honored position by demanding our own way with major life choices like marriage or career, refusing to even consult them. We just bulldoze over them, stripping them of their role as advisors.
Which seamlessly transitions into another highly specific and very tragic warning found in Proverbs 23.22. It says, "Do not despise your mother when she is old."
I found this fascinating. Why does the text specifically single out the mother in her old age?
Well, the analysis suggests that culturally and historically, mothers are often perceived as softer targets. Like, a rebellious child might still fear the physical or financial discipline of a father. But as a mother ages and loses her physical vitality, she becomes an easy victim for condescension.
You see this constantly in our society. It's this dripping condescension of, what do you know about the modern world? You don't even know how to use a PDF.
Exactly.
We have created a culture that treats the elderly the same way we treat outdated technology. If you don't have the latest software update, you are deemed useless. We effectively reduce parents to two categories. They're either bottomless ATMs to fund our lives, or they're obsolete relics we stash away in a corner.
And the study argues that this specific behavior is a primary indicator of profound societal decay. There's a quote included from Paul Washer that is particularly striking here.
What does he say?
He states that one of the greatest marks of depravity in a culture is when children disrespect their parents and youth look down upon the aged.
Depravity. That is a heavy word to use. It elevates this from a minor family squabble to, like, a structural collapse.
It does.
The text clearly views this disrespect as having stakes that alter a person's entire trajectory, and by extension, the trajectory of a whole civilization.
The stakes outlined in the ancient text are terrifying, actually. Proverbs 20.20 states that if someone curses their father or mother, his lamp will be put out in utter darkness.
Utter darkness. That implies a complete loss of direction, like a total blackout of the soul.
Yeah, the interpretation here is one of profound spiritual and psychological disorientation. The argument is that it's virtually impossible to prosper spiritually or gain true wisdom while actively despising the very people who gave you life.
You can't cultivate a healthy soul while poisoning the soil you grew from.
Exactly. The study weaves in observations from several major historical thinkers on this. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the theologian who actively resisted the Nazi regime, argued that where the honor of parents is lost, the destruction of the world and of society is not far behind.
Because the family is the atomic unit of civilization. If you split that nucleus, if you destroy the baseline respect for authority and history within the home, the resulting explosion takes down the entire society.
That's spot on.
You end up with a generation that respects no laws, no history, and no shared morality.
And Tim Keller echoes that exact sentiment in the material. He notes that you will never understand how to live wisely in the broader world until you first learn the localized discipline of honoring your parents.
Right. It starts at home.
It has to.
Yeah.
Billy Graham adds to this, saying that a child who is allowed to be habitually disrespectful at home will inevitably carry that arrogance into every other sphere. They'll clash with teachers, bosses, the law.
We all know people like that. The ones who are chronically incapable of holding a job because they constantly fight with management, or who think every rule is an insult to their ego.
Yep.
When you trace it back, it almost always stems from an inability to honor that first foundational authority. It really is like trying to build a skyscraper on a shattered foundation. Eventually, the math catches up with you, and the billing falls.
To illustrate just how devastating that structural collapse can be, the author shares a deeply sobering story about his own extended family.
Oh, the aunt and uncle.
Yes. His aunt and uncle developed a profound, bitter disrespect for his grandmother. They mistreated her so severely and with such malice that the grandmother, broken by the sorrow of it, openly cursed them.
Wow. What did she say?
Her words to them were simply, "Let me see how your life is going to be."
Oh, my goodness. That is a chilling thing to hear from a parent.
The way their lives unfolded is a stark embodiment of that utter darkness proverb. They both lived to be about 80 years old, living in adjacent houses, Yet they spent their final years completely estranged from one another.
In adjacent houses, that's awful.
The husband died alone without his wife ever coming to see him, and she suffered a terrible, isolated death shortly after.
That is incredibly heavy.
It is. The author clarifies that this doesn't mean every instance of disrespect ends in a literal dramatic curse, but it highlights the profound, lingering psychological rot that occurs when you fracture your most fundamental relationship.
It creates a prison of bitterness that you eventually lock yourself inside. But I want to pivot to the light here, because the ultimate goal of Proverbs isn't just threat mitigation, right? It isn't just about dodging a curse or avoiding utter darkness.
No, thankfully. The study transitions to a beautifully positive mandate in Proverbs 23.
Let your father and mother be glad.
Make them glad.
The objective isn't merely survival or grudging obedience. The objective is to bring them genuine joy.
And this brings us to arguably the most poignant narrative in the entire study. It centers on the author's own mother, and it beautifully illustrates how honor operates under extreme duress.
This is the story about his baptism, right?
Yes. So the author, as a young, financially independent adult, made the decision to get baptized. His mother, who did not share his Christian faith, understood that this was a serious point-of-no-return commitment for him.
And she wasn't happy.
She was entirely devastated. In her heartbreak and anger, she lashed out and actually told him she wished she had aborted him.
Oh my gosh. I have to pause there because the weight of that is staggering. The context makes it even heavier. The author mentions earlier in the material that his mother had previously suffered stillbirths.
Yes, she had.
At one point, his father had actually suggested terminating the pregnancy out of fear, but she had fought tooth and nail to keep him. To have the woman who fought for your life turn around decades later and say she wished she hadn't, that is the deepest wound a human being can inflict.
It is the absolute pinnacle of parental sorrow and bitterness. And the instinct for anyone in that situation would be to retaliate, right?
Yeah.
To scream back or to permanently sever the relationship to protect themselves from that toxicity.
Modern culture would absolutely tell you to block her number and never speak to her again.
100%. But the author maintained his course. He followed his conscience, he went through the baptism, but he absorbed that agonizing pain gracefully.
He didn't retaliate.
He didn't. He maintained his posture of deep respect and honor toward her, despite her lashing out. And because he held that line, because he remained the echo of honor, the dynamic eventually shifted.
She came back to him.
She returned and sincerely apologized for speaking those words. She recognized the grace he extended. And the story concludes with a beautiful reality. Today, in his adulthood, this same mother, who still doesn't share his theological beliefs, regularly tells him how incredibly proud she is of the man he has become.
Wow.
The author notes that simply having your parent look at you with gladness, having them be happy over your character, is a profound, stabilizing blessing in a chaotic world.
It completely validates the proverb. He who loves wisdom makes his father glad. If you pursue wisdom, if you develop a character of grace and integrity, the natural byproduct is bringing joy to the people who raised you. It's a stunning turnaround from utter darkness to genuine light.
Synthesizing all of this material, the core argument of the study is that honoring your parents serves as the ultimate litmus test for personal wisdom.
It is the absolute baseline of a functional human being.
It is the proving ground. I mean, if you are unable to navigate this basic foundational relationship, the very first authority placed in your life, with grace, boundaries, and respect, how can you possibly expect to successfully navigate the massive complexities of marriage or career or societal laws?
You simply can't. If the foundation is built on sand, every other floor you add just accelerates the collapse. So we have to ask, what does this actually mean for you listening to this right now? We all know that family dynamics are universally complicated.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody listening has perfect parents. The material we studied even explicitly notes that there is only one perfect father, and that is the Heavenly Father. Every human parent stumbles, makes mistakes, and sometimes causes real pain.
Right. And the takeaway from this analysis isn't about evaluating whether your parents have earned a medal for their performance. The challenge is entirely about examining your own internal posture.
Exactly.
Are you actively striving to be a source of gladness? When you inevitably have to set boundaries as an adult, are you doing it with the grace and politeness that honors their position?
Are you echoing back with honor, even when they are echoing back with noise? The study leaves us with a truly provocative final thought to mull over. The author observes that you rarely appreciate the sheer magnitude of what your parents did until you become a parent yourself.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the abstract concept of raising a child becomes terrifyingly real. You experience the sleepless nights, the constant low-grade anxiety, the financial sacrifices, all the emotional toll that you never even realized they were paying when you were young.
It completely shatters your previous perspective. You suddenly realize they were just human beings doing the best they could with the tools they had.
Changes everything.
It really does. So here's a practical challenge for you, especially if you are not a parent yet. Take a moment today and try to view your current actions toward your parents through the lens of a hypothetical future child of your own.
Oh, that's good.
Imagine a child treating you exactly the way you treat your parents right now. Imagine them speaking to you with the exact tone of voice you use when you are annoyed. Imagine them rolling their eyes at your advice or demanding your money while ignoring your wisdom. Would you feel honored by that child, or would you feel robbed and despised?
That is a deeply confronting metric for self-evaluation.
It forces you to look in the mirror. Does thinking about that hypothetical child change how you might answer the phone the next time your mom or dad calls? We love to champion our independence, to feel like we have outgrown our need for authority or guidance. But maybe true, lasting freedom isn't found in cutting ties and isolating ourselves. Maybe true freedom is found in finally learning how to honor the masters who first taught us how to hold the tools. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep reflecting, and we will see you next time.